We're here in a secret studio in Munich with this, which is the brand new, the all-new BMW X1. And I thought I'd just give you a whistle-stop tour of the highlights of this brand new model. So straight away you can see that compared to its predecessor, which was more of a jacked up estate really, this thing is taller, it's more raised, it's more rugged, and that's because BMW wanted to produce what it calls a pure SUV. And as you can see from this side profile, you've got more cladding around the wheel arches, along the sides of the car here with underbody protection. In actual fact, it looks a lot more now like a mini X5. Behind the styling, there's a strong technical story going on here because the X1 is based on a new UK L2 platform. It's basically a stretched version of the underpinnings you'll find on a Mini, and it means it's going to be offered in front-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, unlike its predecessor that was rear-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. Also, the engines up front, they're mounted transversely instead of longitudinally, and that frees up a little bit of space up front. So these A-pillars are actually moved 15 centimetres forward compared to the last X1. And what that means is that despite being shorter overall, there's actually 80 millimetres or 8 centimetres more legroom in the back here. Now, I know I'm not the tallest guy in the world, but I've got loads of legroom here, loads of headroom, and it just means this X1 is a more feasible proposition if you want it as your only family car. And there's more around the back too. If we open up the electric tailgate here, we'll find there's about 500 litres of boot space this time around. That's about 70 litres more than you got with the old one, but it's actually a bit of a conservative estimate from BMW because you can expand that space in a couple of ways. The first is this folding false boot floor here. It splits 3 ways and reveals about another 100 litres under there. Of course, that will be taken up by the spare wheel if you go for that option. And the other option, well, that's for sliding rear seats, so you can move them back and forth and free up just that little bit of extra boot room. So, still not the biggest car in the class, but definitely some useful extra room back there. So, what can we say about this interior? Well, one thing we know, as we recently heard, every BMW in the UK is going to come with sat-nav as standard, and the X1 is no different. This car we're in also has the optional panoramic roof, which goes much further back than the old one and floods the interior with light. The quality, well, it's obvious. You can see it's a definite improvement over the previous car. And anyone that's ever seen a 2 Series Active Tourer or Grand Tourer MPV will be familiar with some of the switchgear in here. Now, this model I'm in is an X-Drive, I'm told, and that's aimed at the slightly classier customer. That's why it's got this wood trim across the dash and these strips of brushed metal. If you fancy something a little more colourful, there is a sport model, and that swaps all the metal and wood for strips of colour, livens things up a little bit. As for engines, well, the car will be in showrooms at the end of October. It's going to be a diesel-only lineup like its predecessor. To begin with, you'll only have a choice of 4-cylinder diesels, but there will be an eco front-wheel drive only 3-cylinder diesel that will follow shortly after. As for prices, well, there's nothing official yet, but I'm told it's going to start from around 26 grand.